Welcome in, everybody. My name is Magical Hack. Some of you may know me from Twitch, where I paint very nearly nightly. Um, we're going to be doing some videos on some Battletech. We're going to be starting with some more opinion-related stuff today, with talking about what some of my favorite mechs are, some of my choices on like why I choose a certain mech over another. But yeah, I would definitely like to make this a regular thing. And if you guys happen to like it, don't forget, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. That'll tell me that you guys want to see more of this. So where we're going to start off with first is we are going to start off with a little bit of an explanation on mech sheets, and we're going to break those down so we have a little bit of a baseline to start with. So before I get into any more opinion-related stuff, I wanted to start with a little bit of a breakdown in regards to mech sheets, things like that, and essentially making sure that we have a bit of a baseline of information here to start with. So first thing we're going to look at, like I said, is the mech sheet. We're going to start up here with our mech data. So the sheet we're looking at is for an atlas. They're all going to be basically the same in regards to how they look for mechs. Now, battle armor and vehicles, aircraft, those are going to look a little bit different. The anatomy is pretty much the same, though. So let's start here with our mech data section of the sheet. Up here at the top of this area, you have the type and designation. So in this case, it's an Atlas AS7D. Right under that, as you see, there are your movement points, basically how much you can move, whether you're walking, whether you're running. If you have jump jets on your mech, that will be listed there as well. You'll also see that there is tonnage. So in this, an Atlas is an assault mech, 100 tons is a big boy. And then there's also the technology base. So it's generally inner sphere or clans when it comes to that. Now below that, you're going to be looking at your equipments and weaponry. In the case of this here Atlas, the Atlas D, you have two medium lasers. You have an AC-20, an LRM-20, an SRM-6, and two medium lasers, or two more medium, rather. And you're also going to see, so you're going to see the how many of them are in that slot. You're going to see the type. You're going to see where they are located as well. You're going to see the heat. HT stands for heat, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then the damage that they do. Then there's also your ranges and all of that as well. And also down at the bottom here, you're going to see battle value. That's for essentially, it's the kind of most fair way to put a point value on a mech rather than going with tonnage or with C-bills, because that can swing really wildly. The next section on the sheet is you're going to see your pilot data, your warrior data. So their name, their gunnery skill, their piloting skill, and essentially like your consciousness and your hits taken. So like the consciousness, that's the number that you have to beat in order to stay conscious when you've taken hits. The amount of hits, obviously, that's how many times your pilot has taken hits. Your gunnery skill and piloting skill are also in this section, and they matter when it comes to your die rolls for everything. The next section of the sheet that we're going to look at is our armor diagram. Now, this is where you're going to be doing most of your, well, this and your internal structure diagram, which we'll get to next, is where you're going to be doing most of your modifications to the sheet. This is going to give you one little bubble for each point of armor that you have. Once these are all filled in, you start filling things in on the internal structure. And you notice here that there's separate armor values for both the front and the rear armor, which is important. Rear armor generally has less. You want to kind of maneuver to the rear armor so that you can get to those juicy internals that much faster. Now below that, we have our internal structure diagram. This is where you start filling those bubbles in once we get past the crunchy exterior of the mech and into the juicy insides. Now, once you start hitting these off, there is a chance that you will be rolling critical hits. If you do roll critical hits, that's where this next table comes into play. It's our critical hit table. So we're looking at a lot of different stuff here. You really only need to focus on one thing at a time. So if you happen to get a critical hit in one of your areas, let's say center torso, for instance, you've blown through all of the center torso armor, or you've managed to get in behind, hit it with a PPC hit right in the center torso in the rear, blown through the armor, and now you're working on the juicy bits inside. You roll a critical. So you're going to roll a d6 on a 1 to 3. It's the first set of number 6. On a 4 to 6, it's the second set. And then from there, you would roll another d6 to see where in that area you hit. Now, most of the sections of the mech, except for the head and the legs, are the same. You'll have 2 separate areas. And then once you roll in that, you'll then have to essentially see where your crit actually lands. Now, for things like your engines, your gyro, your sensors, your life support, stuff like that, all of that is can only take a limited amount of hits. So you take 3 engine hits, you're done. Your engine is effectively foobarred, and your mech is out of the fight. You kind of want, which is one of the reasons why you want to avoid any sort of internal structure hits. But that's what this section is about. This is essentially just an anatomy of the sheet type deal. The next thing we're going to be looking at here is your heat scale. So for the Atlas here, it has 20 single heat sinks, which means it can soak up 20 heat per round, because each single heat sink only removes 1 heat for that turn. So as a for instance, this mech, if it were to alpha strike, it would generate 3, 10, 16, 20, 26 heat. Actually, sorry, no, 29 heat, because that's 2 medium lasers in the center torso. So if you were to alpha strike with this, you would push your heat all the way up to 9. So for that, you would be moving slower, and it would be harder to hit, as you know, it's getting kind of hot inside of your mech. One of the really big dangers, again, kind of going off topic for this section, but one of the really big dangers when it comes to heat is, well, you can blow up, your ammo can blow up. So if in this mech's case, there's the AC-20, so there's AC ammo, there's LRM ammo, and there's SRM ammo. Any of that can cook off and explode and essentially kill your pilot. And it will also destroy whatever section of the mech it's in. So let's say you had your AC-20 ammo explode. Bye-bye right torso and bye-bye right arm. Just gone. Also, in the getting back to the critical hit table, there's also a small diagram in here for damage transfer. So let's say you do an attack that completely takes out one of the arms, but there's still leftover damage. That would move to the next section of the mech. Ammo explosions as well. will move to the next section of the mech. So if it's, again, the AC-20 ammo exploding, extra damage is going to go to the center torso, which is bad news bears. So that is definitely something that you want to watch out for. So that's basically the long and the short of the anatomy of the sheet. So let's move on to the next section. Alrighty, as I said, so we're going to look right now at some more opinion-based stuff. Now, these things will vary from player to player based on what they like to run as far as their mech forces. And it'll change whether it's a clan player, an inner sphere player, things like that. For me personally, one of the things that I like to look at when choosing a mech is I'll look at the battle value, like the total battle value, and see, okay, how much, like what sort of battle value am I looking at for this game? What do I want to bring to the table? Now, a lot of times, I like to bring like one or two heavy or assault mechs, so that I have a nice centerpiece for my star, as I am a clan player. Um, so I'll bring in a Timberwolf, which will have some really nice extreme and long range capabilities, with PPCs, two stacks of LRMs, things like that. Like it's a good suppression and first strike mech. I also like to have fairly mobile mechs as well, because there are really kind of two schools of thought, in my opinion, when it comes to choosing a mech. It's either you're going to choose something that will just lay down an ungodly amount of fire on your enemy, or something that your enemy won't be able to hit because it's just moving too goram fast. So when I'm doing my composition for either a lance or a star, depending on if clan tech is allowed in the game, I'll try to balance. Try to have at least one or two mechs that are heavy hitters. You know, the centerpiece linchpin models of the force that can, potentially take out a mech in one turn of shooting. I'd say potentially. It's rare that it happens that I've seen, but a lucky head hit with a PPC can happen. Um, Another thing I like to look at too, because I'm a clan player and all of my battle value is more. Like it costs me way more than an inner sphere player in order to field a force. And that's like mech for mech, pilot for pilot. I like elementals. One of the things that I really like about elementals as a Battletech unit, well, there's two. One, I know they're not quite human. They're a little bit more than human. They're genetically modified human beings. They are bred to be big hulking slabs of meat. They are designed to climb mechs like a spider monkey and get critical hits. If you want a critical fish and try and take mechs down quickly, elementals or other battle armor, because I think inner sphere battle armor can do the same thing, those are what you want. Or at least in my opinion, those are what you want. More on the mech side of things, I actually like running laser weaponry and energy weaponry a little bit more than anything that requires ammo. While LRMs are nice, LRMs are awesome. I do love me shooting a mitt full of rockets down missiles downrange. Ammo can explode. It takes a full action to dump ammo, and that leaves you open for uh, it leaves you open to be shot at without being able to retaliate. That being said, I also like mechs, and because of that, I like mechs that generally have a large amount of heat sinks. Um, you shouldn't be alpha striking every turn, but having the ability to at least do an alpha strike, either if you're standing still or you've walked, and still be able to is something that can't be scoffed at. And now this too, as well, is also speaking from the perspective of classic BattleTech, and not really with Alpha Strike, because that's a slightly different beast. The heat is treated differently, um, damage and everything is treated differently, and I might even do a video on that as well if you guys want to see that. Um, Now let's see. So that kind of covers the what I like to look at as far as when I'm picking a mech, because like really at the end of the day it does come down to what is the fight that you are walking in. Thankfully, as players playing a tabletop game, we can make those decisions going in ahead of time. We can decide that. In universe it wouldn't necessarily be the case, but that's it is what it is. Now, from another member of the community, I got asked, which do I think is the most and the least cool in regards to lore, digital models, and physical models. So let's break this down. Lore wise, I would have to say the in my opinion, and again, this is all just my opinion here, so everybody is going to have a different opinion, and their own opinion, which is fine. uh the coolest bit of lore, honestly, in my opinion, is the scant lore that is available surrounding Clan Wolverine. So they were one of the clans pre-clan invasion that were off on the clan homeworlds. Um, but they did shit differently than the rest of the clans did. So Nicholas Kerensky, he was a bit of a dick, and they essentially, like, without getting into that bit of lore specifically, because you could do a whole video on it. There are other creators that have. Um, he basically tried to get Clan Wolverine under his thumb, and they collectively said, "Go fuck yourself." That clan had essentially the best technology, the best techs, and the best pilots in all of the clans, and there were quite a few people who were jealous of that. So, they were framed, and that's like the whole story. If you want to read it, if you want to read about Clan Wolverine yourself, I would suggest picking up Betrayal of Ideals. Awesome book, and it pretty much covers the vast majority of Clan Wolverine. Now, there is a little bit of reading that you can do that is set after the events of Betrayal of Ideals, and that is the short story Redemption and Malice. And that covers essentially what happens after, a ways after. Um, the least cool lore, Word of Blake. Um, those guys are fuckers. Any force that will use prisoners of war or civilians as human shields during battle mech combat can get fucked. I that is one bit of the lore that, while I understand why it's in there, I don't like it myself. That's just me. There are people who will defend Word of Blake for that. That is their prerogative. Let's see. Digital model. As far as my favorite, like the coolest digital model, I am going to have to say the Bull Shark from Harebrained Schemes Battletech. That is my favorite mech that I've ever had the pleasure to play in a video game. I think it's cool looking. It is super strong. Unfortunately, they don't have a Catalyst Games Lab doesn't have a physical model for it, which makes me super sad. As far as my least favorite digital model, I'm going to have to say the Cicada. I think every digital version of that model that I've seen is poo. Like it's absolute garbage. Um, and again, this is just my opinion. Other people may like it. If you like bug mechs, double thumbs up. It's all good. I do not. Now we're gonna go on to physical model. The coolest physical model will or has always been and will always be, in my opinion, the Timberwolf. It is one of the most iconic mechs in all of Battletech. It's been on, I think, most of the Mech Warrior games. I think the most recent one is an Atlas. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, and somebody will probably correct me in the comments. But yeah, like as far as what I think is the coolest looking mech, it's definitely the Timberwolf, followed closely by the Hunchback 2C. Um, I'm a big fan of a Hunchy. I don't care. It's a walking death trap. It's just so cool. Um, Least cool physical model. I'm gonna have to say the old school Atlas, like the out of print Atlas, is just lanky, is goofy looking. I don't think they got the proportions right on that one. It's the newer one that CGL put out. I think looks a lot better. It suits like the frame of it makes it look like it makes it look like an assault mech. It makes it look big, imposing, and fucking scary. The old one just looks goofy. Um, so yeah, I think that's everything that I have to cover today. No other questions. My next few videos are going to be in regards to some lore and stuff like that. We're going to be going into my version of talking about the essentially the backstory of BattleTech and a little bit of the history. We're going to take a look at some of the factions and sub-factions, and we're going to go on from there. So, yeah, I definitely hope to see you come back. If you happen to like what I got going on here, don't hesitate. Please like, subscribe. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. It's all good. I definitely hope to see you back, though. I do, as I mentioned at the top of this, stream on Twitch as well. Twitch.tv/magicalhack. You can catch me there most nights out of the week. I think the only night that I generally don't stream is Friday nights. So yeah, we can talk live there, or if you want to leave a comment and ask any questions, I will be sure to do my damnedest to answer them for you. I hope you all have a great day. Cheers.